new set of lungs.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lori. What up?
I know, it's this stupid little... Have you noticed that happens the same every time?
I am insecure about that clap every time.
Why?
And then I feel... Because I just feel like I don't know if we're doing it at the same time and, like, hearing it back.
Okay, so you're talking about the clap that we do to prepare.
Yeah.
For our
it throws
audio.
me off so much.
So we clap. I'm just trying to make it clear because this is what we're... Yeah, so we clap to sync our audios.
Yeah.
And it never bothers me. But you get concerned?
Yes. It feels like a oldest child thing. Like, I have to have it, like, right. And, like, I don't know if you are doing it at the same time. I can't be sure because there's a
delay.
Yeah. So
Isn't
I hear
that
your clap
fun?
as a delay, and I'm just like, oh, like, I just have to trust that you know how to clap. I'm like, I don't know if Lori knows how to clap on beat, but every time.
You know, I have decided this whole first child thing, thinking that they've got this perfectionist thing going on. Like, this is what I've noticed. I have 2 first child people in my family, right? My siblings.
Yeah.
I have 2 first children out of my children, and potentially I could have, if you look at it correctly, 3 first children. So the thing is like, the thing about first children is they pick and choose what they're going to be perfectionists about. So I'm like, yeah, you guys all think you're like, so I don't know.
Wait, what do you mean?
Because you pick and choose. It's like, you know, some things are like, I have to do this. I don't know if that's something in their background that they think that some things have to be perfect and some things don't. But,
well, of course, yeah.
Oh, you say of course. No.
Well, I mean, of course, like, how could everything be the most important?
That is
thing?
the perfectionist mentality. Yeah, everything is supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it perfect, then you just don't do it.
Oh my gosh, Lori. Like, the other day,
That is the perfectionist mentality.
I just, seriously, the secret side to me, I just organize constantly and, like, color code and label. Like, I don't know. Most of my friends would not know this about me. But I don't really clean. Like, so the other day, I'm like, okay, I need to clean. Like, you know, my coffee table. I start there, right? Mm-hmm. Like, get into the crevices. And I'm like, it took me forever. And I'm like, this is why I don't clean. Because I keep finding more dirt.
I know.
Like, it can never be, like, good enough. And then I go nuts. And I'm like, oh, why can't I just, like, not go nuts?
I know. You that's such a hoarder thing. I have a good friend.
Wait. What?
I know.
Wait, why is it a hoarder thing?
Okay, because, like, you're cleaning and it's associated with emotions. And so to avoid those emotions, you just won't clean. So my friend, I love my friend.
But I'll organize over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and you'll point to that and give yourself kudos. But
it's not kudos.
No, that's not what I mean.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm saying that you can see that and you can see the rewards in that. So you get to reward yourself and punish yourself in a way to actually get the job done in a very consistent way. So, like, when it comes to something like cleaning, so my friend is the exact same way. So she's like, it's always going to get dirty. Like, it's a sense of lack of control. See, people
There's no reward, no one cares, and as soon as you do it, there's more dirt, and you never got all the dirt in the first place. It's just the worst.
I know, but that's just the story around it. Really, if you were to actually do it. So this is what I used to do when I first started out. So I was like, I left my first husband when I was like around 23, 24, right? And I had
That's so young.
I had to get my head around because I was really effed up, right? So it's really effed up, and I just started getting into Eastern religion. One of the first things I learned was like, so if I'm doing the dishes, I'm just going to just do the dishes.
Uh-huh.
And when I started doing that, I really started realizing all the things that went along with that. So it's just going to I'm just going to get more dishes. Anyways, all those thought forms that would come about. So that's why I'm saying, like, your best meditation would be, like you were talking about, I was dusting, and it's like, this is annoying. That is your best meditation.
If it's something that I don't want to do. Wait.
If there's too many thought forms that surround it.
Uh-huh.
So we have a tendency to do the things that we really like to do or want to do. It's like, but those are technically could be, distractions. Now, they aren't always, but a lot of times the things that we enjoy the most, like, I'm just going to go garden. Like, well, that could be a distraction from doing laundry, organizing.
Also, I think that I personally, and maybe some other people do it, but I want to, like, I will do things that only I can do. I'm like, well, why should I do that if anybody could do it?
Yeah, again, that's just another story. That's just another. So it's hard to identify justifications, but anything that keeps you from doing the behavior is a justification. So, like, I'm sitting there I'm overwhelmed with my divorce, and I'm overwhelmed with my kids, and I'm going through all these emotions, right? And I'm trying to do dishes. And somehow I move into an apartment that doesn't have a dishwasher. I'm like, okay, why did I do this? First of all, okay, so now that becomes my meditation. And if you stick with it, you'll like learn all the things about meditation, so it's like, it's bringing your mind back to like the water, the soap, just doing the dishes. It's so weird. It doesn't make sense when you're talking about it. It really makes sense when you're doing it. And this is something I like to repeat, because this is a story I repeat to a lot of people because it was so meaningful. Because I couldn't believe how oftentimes, like, I would be going through a job change or a moving, and it's like doing the dishes was always like, crap, like, just do the dishes. Yeah.
Wow.
But you have to decide, because ultimately what you're doing is you're doing two things. One, you're teaching your brain to focus on one thing, which is really important. And then two, you're identifying emotions. And then hopefully something will click and you'll like learn how to work with your emotions. Hopefully. Hopefully.
Or even I don't know. First step is like even be more aware of even be aware that you're trying to avoid it, because sometimes you can go so fast past it.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm saying. So when you do your dishes, you're like, this dish, that dish. I remember that feelings, like I'm not getting them done fast. All these things, you really realize it's like, let's say, Buddha's like, pay attention to the water. So when you're doing dishes, it's kind of like pay attention to your breathing. Like, watch the water come out of the faucet. Watch the water go on your dishes. Watch the suds go on your dishes. So that's like, stay like just washing the dishes. It's great. And then you really, so there's lots of things, learning things that happen when you just do that. And you'll learn lots of things. Yeah.
That's really interesting. It makes sense. I don't want to do that.
It was I know, I just have this, it was a very fond memory. It was a very emotional.
Never thought about it, about emotions. Like, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, because you want to avoid your emotions. So you're like, want to clean the, like dust. You think you're doing menial tasks. You're like dusting and cleaning and whatever. But the second you start doing that, you're really not feeling. It's like, what is that gal? Like the organizer gal? Is it
Marie
yeah, that gal.
Kondo?
Oh my gosh.
Something?
I love that you remembered her name.
Yeah.
Kondo?
Is that it? Yeah.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what basically she's doing is the same thing. So she's like making you pay attention to what you're freaking doing. And that it's always attached to emotions. So
Emotions. Like, I'm still feeling detached from Wyatt's emotions. Like,
I know you won't know until you actually do the activity. So like, you just think of what we're doing right now. So like, instead of like, I don't know what you just did, but you did something. You reached for something. Did you get yourself a drink or something? I could tell you're like, you were pouring something. Your focus was off our chat. And so I can feel that energy dissipate. So like, that's the thing. It's like being right here. Yeah.
okay. So the idea is, since you're doing something that you aren't like thinking about and like distracting, you're like aligning, maybe.
I think you're thinking way too much is the point.
Okay,
so
I'll
you're
try
just
it sometime.
so like that because you can only get to a feeling base if you're not thinking. So that
Yeah. Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I just found girl, you and I were talking about words. I ordered a book. It's on Kindle. So I looked up so there's all kind of research. Okay, just to keep we were talking about words and the power of words and there's a lot of research that's been done on that. So hopefully we can talk more intellectually about that because I don't have the information in my head.
Yeah.
I just know that the power of words for sure. I'm like, of course. But it's more intuitively than an actual really good conversation about it.
Yeah. I just don't know what to say about it at this point. I'm kind of just at the letting it. I know it's important.
So learning about words and the power of words is, I go back and forth because this is what's tricky. It's that you can still use that as a distraction. Wow, this is the theme. So, trying to control your words can be a distraction to really feeling what you're feeling. So
yeah, if you yeah, I think that there's a way that it can be, but also a way that isn't.
well, I think for you it probably wouldn't be a distraction because do you really even pay attention to your words?
Do I?
Yeah. Like, have you taken
I pay attention to my words. I don't know. You mean in everyday conversation? I mean, I fluctuate. So, like, sometimes there's times that I'm like 1 foot in a song or thinking of a song that I'm like halfway writing. So part of my brain will be conscious of the words I'm saying and whether they might be part of the song, like when I go back to it later or something. So if I'm in that creative, yeah, I mean, I tap in and out, I guess.
Yeah, you're specifically thinking about consciously creating.
Yeah, like if I hear myself say a phrase or a word, I'll think about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, we'll just stay on that topic of consciously creating because that happens to me if I'm writing. I can move in and out of being conscious of what's coming to me.
Right.
So sometimes my whole thing is like the discipline is just writing out what comes to you.
Uh-huh.
And then I can feel that sensation of because I just remember this sensation. I can feel the sensation of that doesn't make sense. So I'm writing a poem. It's like a 2-page poem or a song or something. And I'll be all that doesn't make sense. I don't know how that ties in. But that's just a split second. And then I'll shift energy or whatever. And then it'll continue. Does that sound
Wow.
familiar?
So for me, it's really weird. So when I first started writing, I was only ever consciously writing. Like thinking about it, what are the words, and took me I was starting, so it'd take me a long time, but looking back, I'd also block myself, so I'd judge phrases and be like, oh, that's not good enough. And then over the years, especially lately, like, I don't know, it was hard for me to accept, like, I started unconsciously writing, and it started being, like, better, and I was like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
It was actually, like, trippy, and I was, like, confused about what was happening and why I was writing songs, but it wasn't the same, and I was, like, it was really, like, wait, like, I don't know, something happened, and so it's just totally different than the way I
But you just let yourself. So how did you interpret that? Like, did you just let it?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what part of my brain, I was trying to figure out, like, what was me, or, like, I'm like, wait, so what's happening? Like, angels are, like, putting words in my mouth? Like, what's going on? I'm serious. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what's going on? Why didn't I think this before it existed? Like, why does this keep happening? Like, this is not in my control anymore. And I was really, I don't know if everybody has this problem. I might just be I don't know. So
No, it's no. You do know.
with the
We've
whole,
talked about this before. It's basically going from, so you're it's like this whole conversation about consciously creating. So people think that that could be kind of confusing with what you just said. So consciously creating is allowing that to procure. So you're allowing that part of whatever that you can't define. It could be coming from anywhere, right? And people really want to define it. It's coming from aliens, the hologram, my neighbor. We really want to define it. And the fun thing about being an artist that you are is that, like, define it later. Let your brain do that later.
Yeah, so it became such a different experience. Instead of me, like, each and every step, like, judging it and, like, rethinking and then having an output and me being like, okay, I know every part of this. Like, I'd write a song and then I'd listen to it back and it was like stepping outside myself, and I'd be like, oh, what? This song's cool. Like, what's it about?
Yeah. I do feel like it's a different feeling with your music too, since you mentioned that to me. It has more of a fluidity to the music and the lyrics. There's a fluidness of music and words.
Yes. And through, I always wanted to know how I could stop blocking myself, and through this, like, unconscious, or through this new thing that started happening and I started accepting, like, I know now, like, I tell, like, I'll meet a new musician and they'll be like, give me advice, like, how can I write songs like you? Like, how do you do it? And I was like, The only thing I can say is don't judge yourself while you're doing it. You can't. It's the only thing I've really learned. That's the best thing that I accidentally stopped doing, and I'm so grateful for it because it's such a nuisance and such a block. And it's like you're trying to be the audience and the producer. You're trying to do all these jobs when you can't fully do the job of creating in that moment, in the essence, and you just keep stepping on your own toes. But it's been forever since I did that. Now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh. But it also came with confidence and maturity, because when I was doing that, I was a new songwriter, and I guess I didn't have that so it was like a fear of, oh, what if I put out something and it won't be good? Then that's what I am. Like, then maybe what if I'm not a good songwriter? Then I would have to deal with that. So the fear of, like, at the beginning, the fear of, what if it's not good? Or even with singing, just like, crap, if I don't do this good, then I have to pick a whole new career or a whole new talent or something. Yeah. But so I guess after writing a bunch of songs, now I'm just like, I don't know. I don't care. Like, I already know that I can. So I don't have to prove to myself that I can.
So, and anymore. I think that ties into anybody's life in the sense that, I think sometimes the arts are looked at like, I'm not a songwriter, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. You know, I'm no Lady Gaga. I'm no president, you know, so we can. But I think that that's the point in living your own life, is to consciously create. First, I think you have to wake up, which I have a different take on what waking up means than I think everyone describes waking up in a different way. So some people try to promote waking up as waking up to God. You know, waking up to there's a higher power and all this kind of stuff. And I wrote this poem, and it's called Waking Up, and it's because it just kind of breaks down this experience of the end result. To me, waking up is realizing that I like that you have more, like, waking up to your own experience.
So I wrote down this quote last night that I heard somewhere, and they said, life is not about learning but relearning. I don't know if I ever really used the words waking up until, talking to you, but for me it was like kind of, it felt like, I don't know, like I just had like a rebirth, kind of just like a like waking up.
Well, see, my brother said the same thing. He's like, wake up to what? And that's what is kind of the confusion when you're slowly, so I would consider you a seeker, and seekers keep seeking, and then there comes to a point when you stop seeking. And I don't know, that would be a different explanation. But what I'm saying is, like, you're seeking, and to me,
how do you know?
How do you know
that you stop? How do you know that there comes a point where you stop seeking?
Because it's a sensation where you feel like you actually get to the point where you're woken up. So, like, it's a movie. Eckhart Tolle, I think, has the great conversation about waking up. He just doesn't lay it out very step by step. So it's like and he even refers to The Beautiful Mind. That's the movie. So it's a guy who's schizophrenic, and he wakes up to the voices in his head.
Uh-huh.
So,
So have you ever heard the quote, I do not seek, I find? Like, I wasn't looking for anything when I stumbled upon myself.
I don't know if I would agree. It's like the seeking part is, I don't know if that's really. I don't know if that's really true. Because all the research, all the Googling, I'll read this,
Yeah,
I'll
but
read that.
that happened after I stumbled upon whatever it was inside myself.
Okay,
So
but that's
the
just a
Googling and
trigger. No, the
Mm-hmm.
seeking happens after there's a spark of.
Right.
There's a spark. It's like you're unconscious, and then there's a spark. So it's like when you're trying to start a fire, and you have to have a spark. So yeah, the spark.
And then there's a
starts
spark, and then you have to
seeking.
find. Yeah. Yeah, you have to find ways. You're like, okay, what is this? Like, how do you make a fire? Like, I have something. I have to do something now. I guess in the hero's journey, it would be like the call to adventure.
Yeah, the spark is if you're talking to just an ordinary conversation about it, an ordinary conversation about it is, I had a trial or tribulation in my life, I had a crisis in my life, I had a trauma in my life, and I could honestly say that I went from that whole concept of unconscious living to shit, I don't know what I'm going to do, but right now I need to make something more. And then that waking up is just kind of like, I don't know, like Oprah calls it aha moments. But
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think waking up is, I do think you have to wake up to God. I think that's part of it. It's like in my poem, I think you do have to get to the point where you're just like, you have to have a guy called Jesus. Like, you have to have someone that you followed. And then you have to have someone that, it's just this process of waking up.
I didn't do it that way.
Well, I'm not saying I'm talking about one thing.
Oh.
I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about a process by any means. But there's definitely something that shifts you from unconscious to conscious. And not everybody knows when it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that makes sense because when you're unconscious or you're asleep, it's not like you are aware of it. That's why it's unconscious.
Well, yeah, you're just, a lot of times it just goes chronologically. You just go from your 10s to the 20s to the 30s to the 40s to the 50s, which that can happen just chronologically, waking up at certain phases of your life. But there's also like a trigger. It's kind of like there's something in the Bible that says, I know who my people are, something like that. And some people, to me, have something in them, which I think is probably just wiring, right to left brain, but where you have something that happens to you and you realize you're asleep. Like Eckhart Tolle was like, he just had that moment where he had a voice inside his head and he was like, what the hell was that? And it happens different to everybody. It's different for everybody, that waking up.
Yeah.
But the definition is still, the experience is still the same in the sense that you recognize at some level you've been a sleepwalker.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, waking up is not about finding God. Even though finding God is part of the process, I still think because like I think some atheists, like if I listen to some scientists, I'm all, did you go through the God process? You know, I'm like, if you've always been an atheist and you've never experienced both sides of your brain, I don't know if necessarily if you're awake, because if you can't talk about the spiritual experience, then I don't think you're really awake.
Yeah, and I guess they wouldn't care to be because they're not interested in spirituality. I mean, that's what, right?
To me, it's just a right brain, left brain thing. So their interest is only, so that to me, that's the same thing as being unconscious. So you're unconscious. Of course, your interests are only going to be, you know, certain things, but it's that spark. And then you go, wow.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, an awake person is knowing both sides of the brain. It's like, you know God and you know atheism. To me, it's like you know both things.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what I think being awake is, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, not everyone's going to agree with that. A lot of people say being awake is finding Jesus or something, you know?
Yeah, and words are, I mean, these vague terms, of course, they're going to have so many different ways of interpreting them, and people are going to define them, you know, how their community or people around them use it.
I know. We have to be careful about going too vague. So one guy that I was listening to a long time ago, he was a German seeker, and he was looking here.
A German seeker? Oh, he is a German man?
Yeah, he's from Germany, and he was a seeker, and he was going here and there and everywhere, traveling to different countries, and he ended up at some, I don't know, guru place, Tibetan place, I don't know. So he was trying to participate in this, and the spiritual teacher was just said to him, you know, go to what's familiar. And so he went back to Germany and reconnected with his roots. And from there, he wrote all these books and became a spiritual teacher. So, I mean, it can happen different for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, there's no right way, but I still would say that there's something about like really waking up.
Yeah. This summer in Montana was just wow to me.
Really?
Going back to, you know, the Highland and working with my siblings and the, you know, the hustle of the tourist season, and, you know, seeing my parents in the same thing that we, you know, grew up in, and the new way that I saw the world, it was just like, whew,
yeah,
amazing to go back to what's familiar.
Yeah, and that's just growing up. It's like the more mature person facing all the old linkages. I don't know if that stuff will ever change, you know. I think it's when you kind of come full circle when we talk about that hero dynamic, I think that there's a very just honoring everyone's place. So to me, it's like going back home, and even though I have discovered all these things, there's respect for the parent being the parent, and the first child, second child, third child. Mm-hmm. There's, you know, it seems like you go through this phase of like breaking, cracking lines, and then when you come full circle, you just kind of honor those things. It's just this.
Yeah. I wrote the song Gold Rush this summer.
Yeah.
And it was just like, everything. Seeing like the lyrics are, I've been touched by an angel. They sing in my ear. The gold rush is right here. I've been up all these mountains. There's nothing to fear. The gold rush is right here. It was just like, my heart was just, I mean, every other time I've been in West Glacier and done the Highland thing, there was no place in me at all that had the fullness to expand or appreciate or be. It was just totally different.
Yeah, I think the richness of home comes with age.
Mm-hmm.
Like the complexity and the richness of home. Like, and then it expands to where, home could be anywhere. But I can say for my experience, it's, people get caught up in like, that was my house. Now my house is moved. To me, it's a sensation. Like I think family creates an environment. And as we shift, there's like this maturity. And then when you go back to it, even though everyone else is playing the same roles, there's like a richness to it. If you watch videos like YouTube videos where they put the music to going home, and yeah, it's just it's a maturity. It's growing up. Emotional intelligence. I keep poking to that, like emotional intelligence. Being willing to experience the shifts in life,
Yeah. Emotional intelligence. Yeah, that's one of the first things, you start researching. I mean, that's a lot of people are familiar with that.
But honestly, to me, that's part of waking up too. I don't think that we're very... I actually am not super excited about the word emotional intelligence, because it seems like... Because I took an emotional intelligence test when I was around 35, and I was like, wow, I scored really bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I scored really... Yeah, like on anger, I'm like, I'm not supposed to get angry. So I really scored bad. And I was like, well, this is so abstract. How am I supposed to become more intelligent? So to me, like, I'm very intellectual in the sense that I can't read a book. So to me, emotional intelligence goes back to being willing to experience a moment and to really feel, like, be in your body, feel the emotions that's in your body, and like just feel them and express them. To me, emotional intelligence is something that you have to experience. I don't think it's something that you can read about.
Emotional intelligence also is, I mean, like paying attention to others' emotions and how to react, like understanding, being able to...
Yeah, it's what you can do with they call it, it's like an appropriate... How intelligent are you? How you can manage your own feelings and the feelings of others. But you have to be tricky, because that, when you come from a dysfunctional family... And actually, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to broaden that, because I don't think people learn this appropriately. We don't learn about emotions. So you don't have to come from a dysfunctional family to not know about emotions. So, people want to recoil and go, well, my family's so messed up. Well...
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Yeah.
No, just the understanding, because that... Yeah, I just think you have to be able to experience it. And I don't think that our culture, I think you have to go to Eastern religions to really learn about emotions and how to manage them. That's
But
just my opinion.
if emotional intelligence is kind of, if it's measurable, right? So you're measuring the output. And I think that in our family, I mean, okay, so some people can get really good at choosing their response to manipulate
Right.
others. And so that can absolutely look like emotional intelligence.
Right.
And so it would be technically emotional intelligence because emotional intelligence is measured by the outside. But it's not.
No.
Then when you take the essence of the word, it's not. But only you would know that. If you just lied and said, yeah, I understand my own emotions, no one would know any better.
You know, I'm kind of actually enjoying this dynamic because you are on that mindset. The fact that someone can make someone else believe that they're emotionally or feeling a certain way is the mask. So the test for emotional intelligence is actually someone's internal experience. So the test is about how do you feel when this. It's not necessarily how you think when you do this. It's how do you feel when this happens? How do you feel when that happens? And I would say that someone who was really good at making someone else believe what they were thinking may not be so good at the test because they only would know that they wouldn't know that they were feeling that way unless someone else told them. So their behavior or words or actions, their feelings, because they don't know their own feelings, they're looking for someone else to tell them, oh yeah, you're happy, you're sad, you're this, you're that. And the person on the inside is going, oh wow, I'm behaving in this appropriate way to get that feedback. So I'm going to keep behaving in this way. Whereas like emotional intelligence is going, actually, I just feel sad. Like right now, I'm just sad.
Right.
And so a person who's really good at getting the right feedback, see, that's when I know like someone's being more authentic, is the feedback is all effed up. One person says, she's sad, she's, oh my gosh, this, that, and the other. The other person says, she's really angry, it's probably because of her mom. Or the other person, that's how I know someone's being authentic. Because the feedback is kind of effed up. If you can control the feedback, you're not being true to yourself.
Yeah.
You know why? Because people project. So everyone's projecting. And if everyone's projecting and everyone's giving you, oh, now they're labeling you in some mental disorder and someone else is saying that's exactly what she should be doing. When you get that multiple varied feedback, it's like, yeah, you're being authentic. Like,
yeah. Now that you say that, like I'm smiling right now because I just like realized that I always get odd feedback.
I've never thought of it that way, but it's like,
yeah.
But when you're trying to control someone else's emotions towards you, it's like, whoa, that's a mask. Like, that's a mask. You have to and this is what I've always done with my kids. Like, you gotta let them just go like, well, you know, they're angry. Unfortunately, they're angry, you know.
Yeah.
And they just going to be angry as long as until they're not angry, you know. Doesn't mean that I don't get frustrated, because I do, but or I don't get sad, because I do. But I get sad and yeah.
Yeah, masking has so many rewards in
There's so
society.
many freaking rewards.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what though? It doesn't work everywhere. So like when I went to India, like one of the phrases I used on my blog was you get a lot further in India with your heart than you do in the States. People to me, like when I went over there and then came back, it was like this real realization that our culture just is cautious. They're like, oh great, she has a great heart, big deal, you know, what can you get from that?
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Whereas India, like if I met the counter person or the you know, they would feel you and then really want to balance out the energy. So I was driving with a taxi driver and I could really tell like he just wanted to balance out the energy. Whereas like in the States, the driver has an intention, I have an intention. That connection never works out.
Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting because we don't, if you're just, you know, born in a country and raised in a country, you don't, yeah, that's your culture.
Yeah. But that's what I mean, like waking up from that is traveling helps. Like if you were born in Europe, they travel, they have multi-cultures, multi-languages. Over here, we don't get as much mixture. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Somehow you've come across different cultures on the internet. Or even, well, we just did an interview with Jack. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you're open to meeting people of different.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but not a lot of people think that way. Like I spent a good long time in my life confused why people only want to meet people who are just like them. Like I was a furniture salesperson. I'll never forget. I was going through the struggle. I'm like, I don't get why everyone wants to find people with similarities. Like, why? Don't you want to talk to somebody who's different?
I guess for comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and comfort's not really like I like discomfort. Some people like discomfort. Some people like in certain ways.
Yeah, I think we pick and choose what we're...
Yes.
Because you and I have talked a lot. I think we pick and choose what we're going to be... What will expand or experiment in terms of comfort level.
Right.
So...
Yeah.
But there's definitely some people who have... I'll just overall have more of an adventurous... mentality.
Yeah, must be a personality thing.
Yeah, it's to me it just goes back to it's a very comfortable category for me, like approach avoidance. Is but still I think that I kind of pop in and out of that because I still think that you can have an approach person but they don't want to address certain things in their life.
Absolutely.
Or it could take just a really, really long time.
Yeah. It's not what they're approaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a verb, approaching.
Yeah, I mean, but I still think you're subconscious. Like, it's just a matter of time. So to me, okay, let's just hash this out. So, like, to me, an approach person would eventually, when that subconscious bubbles up and you've created enough conflict in your life, an approach person is supposed to, well, that personality would technically approach it face on. So there's bad feelings, there's this and that, where an avoidant, even though it bubbled up, may or may not, you know. More than likely not. So it's going to take way more for an avoidant to
approach than an approach person to avoid every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be weird if, wouldn't it be scary if people were avoidant mostly all the time and then once in a while they just did an approach thing? That'd be so scary. Could you imagine?
I would have to experience it because I don't even know what that would feel like.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would feel like because I live with an avoidant. So an avoidant would...
Yeah, if one day he was like, I'm just going to go across the street and make friends with the neighbors, you'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why are you doing this now?
Oh, see, he'll do that.
Okay.
But
so that's an approach.
No, it's not. It's
Why?
only because there's he doesn't have any negative feelings. He's
not fearful, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
He's not overcoming a fear, yeah.
Yeah, he's not overcoming a fear. No, he's doing that because he's comfortable. You see, so he'll do that all the time. It's like, and to me, that's a fear. I'm like, dude. But, you know, just because you're an approach doesn't mean that you don't have fears that you don't address. It just means that if you have something in mind, a goal, something, like, to me, I always talk about inspired goals. If you had an inspired goal in mind, an avoidant would have a harder time breaking through barriers than an approach.
Yeah.
So
it would be hard for me to see why they would even try to break through. They've never been like rewarded in that way, so there's nothing really.
Yeah, I'm still waiting.
Yeah, like why would they do that? Where would it come from?
Yeah. Like there's moments where, well, you know, I think of, you know, because we're in that experience, I'm in that experience of having an avoidant in my family, in my world that is slowly waking up. So I'm like, okay, how does this happen then? How does an avoidant wake up? And that to me is very curious because he's experienced, you know, energy on his head. He's experienced energy, like an openness in his sacral chakra. And so I know it's happening.
Well, a theory.
Very curious.
a theory is that they try to use another to wake up vicariously through until it's really needed for them to take an action. Because if somebody's preaching at you and somebody around you gives a lot of energy, they're going through something and it's a lot of energy, and sometimes those things can just penetrate and they can be like, must be learning.
Yeah.
And over time.
I love being reminded about that because I do think that's very true. And to me, like, the research just shows, like, whether an avoidant matches up with an avoidant or whether an avoidant matches up with an approach. So, an avoidant with an avoidant, you don't really connect with the conscious world. But if you connect with an approach, yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying. They can level up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like for a free elevator.
God dang it. I want my free.
Yeah. 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 They can just be like eating popcorn. Like 10 years later, they're like, huh, like smarter. Like somebody, if you like,
Stop.
it's
God
like,
dang
it's
it.
like, it's like how, you know, you hear the radio, you might not be like actually listening to it, but everywhere you go, there's a hit song. So, one day you're just gonna know the song. You're like, dang it, I don't even like that song. I don't even know that song. Like, but I just know it now. It's gonna get through.
Osmosis.
Yeah, you heard it and you heard it, you heard it. You're like, I guess I know the song now.
New set of lungs.